Hello, welcome to the Squarebase Show, where it's getting magical, and also we have some big rumors coming soon. It's Rob and Val.
We're here.
I like it's Rob and Val. I'm going to do that in the future. I never really did how to introduce the name, so I'm going to hit it's Rob and Val now. That's the plan.
You know what? And then like maybe in 2025, 26, we could have a lower third with our name on it.
I don't.
There's a button. I know you have a button.
I did it.
Is it up?
Yeah,
you just put it up?
Yeah. Anyway. It's
somewhere someone's like, he's Rob?
Right, listen. Hello, everyone. Merry Christmas. Happy any other holiday that you may celebrate. This is going to be like a quick, tight 10, 20 minutes. We're going to be talking about a bunch of cool stuff that's emerged. Back in the day, we would have spent even longer on this, but we don't have the time because there's so much content.
Obviously, we've got like 4 episodes in this tight 10 of 2024 episodes. So like this is going to be sick.
So get ready to get excited because that's what we're going to be doing right now. So what we're going to do quickly is we're going to start talking about the Empire release, but I don't know if you want to talk about the SBOT results in here as well. Interested in just kind of mentioning what happened with that?
Well, actually, I'm currently working on a full-on friggin' video about the SBOT 2 results. We have the final match getting edited up. We've got a little interview with the overall winner, so I won't spoil that. And then we'll have the regionals too. So I'd say there'll be some standalone content coming to you to wrap up the SBOT 2.
Okay, that's really fun. So look forward to that. And if you're not sure what that means, SBOT 2 is the online Warhammer Fantasy Battle, Old World event where we had over 100 people. Val was organizing over 100 people to battle it out. And we've got a champion now. So that's all wrapped up and resolved. So expect the results soon, which is pretty exciting.
Very, very exciting.
Very exciting. But, like, is it as exciting? I think taking the world by storm, and I know, obviously, has already seen these, but we have a trio of Empire wizards that have been showcased. And I just thought we could talk about these here, because I think a lot of people in the comments below, let us know what you think, because I have seen some people kind of like, it's too much whimsy on one side of the fence here. Too much whimsy.
It's too whimsical.
It's too whimsical. Well, I was speaking to someone yesterday and they said, the reason they thought that 6th edition was so popular because it was more grimdark, right? More grimdark. And maybe some of these...
Seeing a lot of comments like, oh, that looks like World of Warcraft.
Yeah, that sort of energy.
Old Hands got that critique quite a bit, I noted.
Yeah. But this is, again, keeping up with, we probably should keep a track, actually, of how many old world new kits actually have been released. Because I don't even know if we're up to 20 yet. Since launch, we had maybe we're about 20. I think it's below 30. But anyway, so we haven't really gone.
No. All I was going to say is no matter what the number is, Old World is leading the league right now in infantry-based characters that you'll never use but look really cool. It's absolutely dominant.
How dare you? AOS for 40K have been trying to take that title for a long time. They got a lot of lead time. Okay? Got a lot of lead time.
So I am all over the map. I know it's a tight 10, but I also want to shout out here that there is a model of the year vote going on Games Workshop. From what I can tell, you can vote as many times as you want, and I'm personally trying to sabotage the 40K best model of the year to be the Red Gobbo as Santa Claus. And I just encourage everyone to vote Red Gobbo as Santa Claus model of the year.
Not to be like a deep state plant, but I reckon they don't pay attention to the voting and they just pick them. But
it's a fair point. That is a fair point.
Anyway, so I mean, I have never seen my phone explode as when these went up. Non-Old World people were messaging me and they were like, what is happening? And I was like, I don't know, bro. Maybe the sickest models ever. So Val, just off the top, what was your initial reaction? Same to the people watching in the comments. What was your initial reaction?
Sickest models ever.
Really? Just like straight up?
No. So that was me? Question mark. My reaction was, new wizards. Cool. I would say I don't. I mean, I know our thing is to be enthusiastic, but no, actually, I did not have a visceral reaction, and I'm going to say it because I love the plastic kit so much. I think the
Ah,
plastic kit's one of the all-time greatest, and so these are sort of nice to haves. They are very cool, and who doesn't love a wizard? And specifically, I know friend of the show Louise definitely probably very very happy about the cute little arcane familiar people like
hmm
the little dudes.
hmm
I think that's really cool. Wish there were some rules for these little guys. Maybe there will be. I don't know.
I feel
But
like,
like
go on.
no, that's it. I think they're very very neat. They also call back to a lot of different sculpts over the years. I think, yeah, I think they're nice.
Yeah, I think that I think they're stunning. I think I can see people's reactions and feelings about them, especially with the familiars, them being like a tad cutesy. But a thing to remember as well, and I think that we're starting to see that from this release, but we'll definitely see this in the future, is SDS, not only from a creative aspect, like the rules and the lore, but also from like a miniatures route, are a completely different studio to Games Workshop Main. This is the
Mm,
same community of sculptors and artists who bring us Blood Bowl, Horus Heresy, which is Horus
so
Heresy is
good.
like very like kind of straight down the line in many ways, but also they come from like a scale modeler background. They're normally the
Yes.
older
Yes.
artists as well, and you've got a lot of that kind of 1980s whimsy, I think, coming through. I thought Friedel was good. I think the Orc Shaman works really well as well. But
I,
I go on.
Yum Grim.
Young Grim, oh my god, Young Grim, yeah. So I feel like we're starting to understand their style and stride, and also what
Mhm.
maybe the old world will give us, because we don't, until we see a full release, we won't really understand them aesthetically. I don't think, because you could definitely point to some stuff and be like, that's very Warhammer Fantasy Battle, but these kind of feel like a new step in Warhammer Fantasy Battle, like in almost a new generation, right? And it is a new generation, but like they're not trying to hark back, is what I'm trying to say.
I would say the thing that really got me um like whoa excited
Yeah,
was as far as like holy cow, this is what fantasy or like old world can look like or could look like. And I don't want to be a bummer here, but it was when I saw the Get Mob release for AOS.
yeah.
Like the having that new sculpt, the motion, like the the movement of those models, especially juxtaposed against the release of what are some very lovely chestnuts in the Empire release of the old model line. But just seeing that like all together, those chariots racing and like these wolves bounding around and like this giant cool character. I was like, man, imagine if all fantasy armies looked that way. How cool would that be?
Mhm.
Because again, like we talk about a lot, like the old world is so model centric, and your army on the tabletop, because the terrain isn't primary, the armies just look so cinematic and cool. So the more we get that, the better. And we also get that because the community super embrace third party miniatures. So you see people bringing all sorts of awesome, 3D prints and third party manufacturers who also have that. So like all these coming together just makes such a really cool mix of stuff. And these are, by the way, very cool models. Sorry to be a buzzkill. I apologize.
No, I think that's really fair. And I was just, while you were talking about it, I was thinking back to the other models released so far. And I do feel like we're going to see a more whimsical, like old world than we've seen in the past. And this definitely is like a flag in the ground. I wouldn't say it's a litmus test, but like, thinking back to the Orc Shaman and even Young Grim, they have a lot of whimsy going on. And I feel like we might be entering into a more whimsical, more kind of 1980s cartoon fantasy like era, and I'm like Sword in the Stone, and I'm okay with that. Like I think that would be a good place for the fantasy universe to be. Like I think that those new goblins coming out for HCMR are great as well, obviously, but this is also cool.
That I think you also just sort of hit that and maybe people will be a little upset by the idea of cartoonishness, but I think you did nail it there. And actually, again, that excites me. I think that would be awesome. And it would give it a very very different vibe to some of the other model lines out there, and give it a different and distinct visual appeal.
Yeah, I would say, like, because it feels like, especially not knowing the sculptors, although a few, but like knowing that department, I feel like it's an ode and a love letter to that generation of fantasy. And then, so we'll see. The beast guy with the frog, like these tokens, these kind of like these familiars. I really hope they do gain rules because they're stunning. And I think this one took the internet by storm as well. This is my favorite of the three, actually.
He's very cool. My main comment here is, look at what they've done to you, Slan. Look at what they've done.
Maybe this is a critique on not being allowed the Slan.
Perhaps. One thing I want to shout out, like on that cartoony thing, like you can see here too, like just that very bulky upper body, like lots of stuff going on the shoulders and the top end of the model. On the Light Wizard, the first guy, look at them sleeves. It's interesting that now we've seen two like with hands. The reason he has those massive pauldrons is to accommodate these ludicrously puffy sleeves.
Yeah,
and this wizard is like, you want some puffy sleeves, mate? Check these out. Look at those things.
Yeah, they are. The puffy sleeves are definitely in vogue in the Empire at this point in time. I do also like the concept as well that they might have like been like, okay, so Empire, where we left them in Warhammer Fantasy Battles in 8th edition, was several hundred years later. Let's go back a couple of hundred years. What would happen? And then someone went, I reckon they had really puffy sleeves. And he was like, really? He's like, yeah, you know how like there's a difference between like the Tudors and the Jacobeans? Like, interesting.
That's a great point.
Interesting.
That's a great point. Yeah, maybe we'll see different, slightly different fashions on these guys. That is a really cool point. I like the idea that, they got to fight the Great War against chaos, and they're like, maybe we should be able to move our arms a little better. Maybe we need a little more freedom in our tunics.
And then we got the Death Mage as well, which looks, I think, 11 out of 10, pretty cool. This is my least favorite of the three, but I do like the nod and the hark back to that kind of battle mage kit that you can build.
What I'm also loving is that the Necromancer here, as well as the Lore of Light Wizard, were sort of hidden in plain sight. They appeared on the magic items, as well as the magic, like the but the magic cards on the decks. Basically the drawings of these guys were there.
The ones on launch.
And so, yes, on launch, and I think probably somewhere in the rule book as well. So that's actually really cool. If we now we can almost go through and see, because I think the concept art is what they're basing their miniatures off of, or vice versa. I'm not sure. Who knows? And so we can sort of see Easter eggs scattered about. And if you're wondering what someone's going to look like, you can go and find the picture of them.
That is very cool. We should try and go through the book and find that. That sounds like a fun little mission. Oh, who's that on the front there?
Little kick-nick action. And, Rob, this is something pointed out to us, I think, in the comments. Speaking of Gitmob, sorry, ADHD again. How many goblins on that wolf in the foreground?
2.
Rest my case.
If you're not sure what case he's making, he's talking about the goblins being released for Age of Sigmar. Just in case you weren't able to connect the dots. All right, so we got some amazing looking new Empire models out as well, and also Easter egg. They could be featuring pretty heavily, like coming out of like the art we're seeing in books as well. Yeah. So that's
the art is brilliant. When was the last time we saw a Games Workshop release with this much new hand-drawn art? Or hand-drawn looking art.
So actually, that's one of the things that's a really big deal inside SDS, and I know this as well because Louise obviously worked there for years, but one of the things that they love, the head of SDS at least likes to do is like, just draw me stuff. Like, this is the idea, draw it for me. And it's just kind of like concept art. And he's like, yeah, more of that, less of that, it's boom. And then they go from that concept art straight over to the sculptors. So it's a very kind of like, fluid kind of like state where that concept art is like used to develop the mini straight off the bat. And then obviously I think that's quite clever as well, because then everyone kind of gets to pitch in on what they roughly think it's going to look like, and then it immediately goes into a book. So it's quite efficient as well, right?
Yeah. I don't know about you, but growing up, I don't think there was anything that did more for me world building wise than the art.
No, I've said this multiple times. I think the company, the business may never have ever got off the ground anywhere near as effectively as if it didn't just like really embrace the art. Like it's the driving factor, I think.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So Old World, the place for sick art.
Sick art, even though I don't like art. Okay, anyway, the art's not good. Now the next...
Art's for the bourgeois.
Yeah, anyway, the next bit of news comes straight from Val Heffelfinger's Mind Palace, but it is a good bit of... it is a fun bit of crack lore that we can talk about. So the upcoming Amazon... So if you haven't been keeping a track, Games Workshop, the company that make the Old World, have got a... deal in the pipeline potentially with Amazon to make some sort of live action series, and obviously and then Henry Cavill's been paid to promote that that business. There's money from investment reports in like whatever year it was that happened, but anyway, so then there was a big announcement yesterday, and while like there being a big 40K TV series or whatever it is kind of interesting, there's some other information buried in the article, which is quite fun. So, Val, do you want to let us know what... have you got it, or do you want me to read it?
I was pulling it up. So, here it is. So, essentially, as Rob was mentioning, hero to some, Henry Cavill, has been squirreled away working on, I guess, a media deal to bring some things to the screen using the IP of Games Workshop, specifically Warhammer 40,000. And that's the way it's been framed this whole time. Henry Cavill loves his Custodes and planting Horus Heresy books in Instagram photos and talking about Warhammer on the screen. I would actually take it a step further. Henry Cavill put together a production company and group of people to make this happen. So he's more than an employee of this enterprise. I think he sees this as his, next 40 years of life endeavor. Like this is something that he very much from the outside looks like he has abandoned all other projects to become the head of the equivalent Marvel Studios, but for Warhammer. And I, as someone who's gotten really horny about the idea of like streaming games because no one else is doing this, I can see how he sees this as a massive opportunity. So he's more than just an actor or more than just a person. He actually put together a team that has, I think, forced this down the throat of both Games Workshop and in finding a partner like Amazon. And he sort of references that with his team and his Instagram post. But that is a little bit of background. So they have over the last 2 years, I guess, been hammering this out, and it's always been an agreement in principle. So they haven't actually had something that they were going to go forward with, and they apparently have solidified that the deadline was the 18th of December, and so they are going ahead with going into production for a series. However, under the terms of the agreement, Games Workshop has granted exclusive rights to Amazon in relation to films and television series set within the Warhammer 40,000 universe, together with an option for Amazon to license equivalent rights in the Warhammer Fantasy universe following the initial release of any Warhammer 40,000 production.
And Warhammer Fantasy is not Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Very different.
So that is a very different way of terming it, but I do wonder if they refer to fantasy as the other half. So I do believe that could be just the AOS Old World Blood Bowl side of things.
I don't know if there is I genuinely don't know if there is a Warhammer Fantasy universe. Maybe there is. Maybe I'm wrong, and there is some sort of like legalese above that. But the pitch is obviously going to be like, Amazon just needs to look. They'll move over. They'll be like, hey, are there any other successful branding deals with Old World? And they'll be like, yeah, there's Warhammer Total War. They're like, cool. Any Age of Sigmar ones? They'll be like, no. You're like, oh. Which one are they going to choose? I think we'll see which one they choose. And that's quite exciting because, with Game of Thrones, that had, this big story to tell. arguably Warhammer Fantasy Battles, or Warhammer Fantasy Old World, whatever you want to call it, has got a bigger story to tell. It's far more grandiose, or at least like there's not quite as much incest. Like, I don't know what goes on in Goblin Town, but not quite as much.
Not before Hollywood gets its hands on it. We're really liking the interplay here, but we're wondering if the siblings could have sex with each other. What do you think?
They're goblins. They are going to stab each other. Yeah, but what if they stabbed each other in love? No. That could be fun.
My number one fascination with how, especially 40K, because 40K has literally written sex out of possibility in the vast majority of the factions. That I do wonder how they make this work for a television audience, which includes both genders, all genders. So yeah. I'm curious to see how this does get adapted. Although we do have Cavill, who has, I don't know if it was a little character assassination when he left The Witcher, but was being painted with the too much of a bro brush. So maybe he will keep the Space Marines.
Listen,
are always dudes things going. We'll see.
His main and most loved IP is 40K. You're allowed to put a red flag question mark around that guy. That's okay. All right, that's an okay thing. Like,
very strong job.
If someone comes into your local gaming store, they come in and they're like, I fucking love 40K. You'll be like, all right, I respect that, and I love stuff too, and I'm passionate. I respect that, but bro, let's bring it down a level. That's all we're gonna just down. Right?
So here's a question for you.
Yeah.
If it is Warhammer Fantasy in the way that we would interpret fantasy, what story would you want them?
Sigmar. No, not Sigmar. It's Karl Franz. It's got to be Karl Franz. It's got to be the rise that we start out Karl Franz, a young farm boy. Obviously, that's not true. Or you could go the other way. If you wanted to go a little offbeat, you could go for Vauten and go that story, right? Like a young farm lad eventually becomes a noble knight in the Empire and dies in the war at the end times. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty good, pretty apocalyptic.
So but that all ends with everyone dying. So actually, it kind of makes me think of why they went to the Great War Against Chaos in the Old World timeline, is because it gives them runway, right? It gives them runway for the good guys to win. Whereas the end times paints them into a corner of everyone that you care about is about to die, right?
Yeah.
So like Karl Franz would be tough unless it's just like a full-on prequel to doing something with AOS, but they're just so different vibe-wise. I also, by the way, think that AOS would work really well and be super unique because like a Warhammer Fantasy show would be, it would be same but different to a lot of the sort of the gritty, realistic fantasy shows like Game of Thrones, like Witcher, all those things. Whereas like AOS would, on TV, you can really do that kind of like, I don't know, you can move your locations very well. You can have these odd settings and you can have unreality a lot better. And it would have a very different, distinct look. Maybe that would be cool. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think fantasy helps, like at least the old world setting gives like a more grounded kind of like understandable realism to it. But like, we're probably 5 to 10 years away from whatever the 40,000 thing will be. So we're even longer before we see something from fantasy. So, like it would have been fun if it had been picked up by Apple. I would have much preferred the entire thing to have been picked up by Apple.
Apple?
Oh my God. Apple's the sci-fi channel. It's the best sci-fi channel on the internet. Everything is great. Foundation, Severance, the Silo is out. That's great. See, if you're just a boy, you just want to see blind people chop people up with swords. Brilliant. Like Apple's absolutely cruising. I think they put something like 21 billion into original programming.
You just rattled off 4 things that you think are awesome that I've heard for the first time.
Yeah, like no one's heard of them. I mean, you should check them out. You should watch Severance. You would love the fuck out of Severance. It's so good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's one more point I want to make on this. There's a lot of I'm seeing for the first time some very unbasked comments were drawn out by my attempt at social media and engagement, as referenced earlier today. And what I would say is that people are mad about I guess the Lord of the Rings license they got, and also their the Lord of the Rings license that they got, completely forgetting that they also made The Boys, which is like gross in how how graphic and dark it can be, and I think fairly true to its subject matter. Although I'm not a guy who's ever read those graphic novels. And then also I've heard very good things about the Fallout license and what they did with Fallout. So I don't think, for those people who are like, they're going to ruin it, I don't think that's necessarily the case at all. I think you've clearly got people who are passionate about this driving it forward, and it should go just fine.
The people who are immediately like, they're going to ruin it because of X, just block them. Just block, just like 3 dots on whatever app you're on, block. You never need to hear from that person again. It's a healthier life for you. Don't engage. Just be like, do you know what? Why don't I listen to someone who at least is having a constructive conversation versus immediately like, it's down. It's bad before we start.
What if I commented, instead of that, I commented, isn't there a video game you should be spamming negative reviews on?
or I'm sorry that you're feeling extra tough because no one wants to spend Christmas with you. Any of those things.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
right. Anyway, so new Empire models out. But the last thing, new Empire models out, Amazon Fantasy Series for the old world. You heard it here first. You will have heard it here first. First place in the world. I'm gonna clip this. Come back to this in 10 years' time. Me and Val, old men. Last thing we want to talk about today very quickly is if you're a fan of old world, you're a fan of old world scenery, and you love hills, then you're going to want to...
good one.
Then you're going to want to jump over to Eric's Hobby Workshop because, Val, take the story away for me, please, if you could.
Well, I was, of course, getting the S-Bot, or I should say the Squarebase Open Toronto, because it stands for something different in that case. But the Squarebase Open Toronto was happening, obviously, in the fall, and I needed some terrain. I needed to make some tables of my own, and I was looking at how to make hills. I gave a good friend of the show, Eric, a call, and I said, hey, Eric, if you had to make a bunch of hills, how would you do it? He then went off, I swear to God, 20 minutes talking about the ideal slope of a hill for rank and flank gaming, in which he gets it down. I mean, the whole video I think is about 12 minutes here.
Yeah, 12
minutes. 11 minutes here, but there is in this video he does distill his thoughts on hobby hills, on small hills, and whether or not geographically they make sense. It's a fantastic video on hills. It also tells you in the end, gives you a great tutorial on how to make hills the way he did, and he cranked them out real fast. He made probably, I want to say he made 20 hills for us, and they are featured in this video. In fact, over to my right now, I got 2 hills on my table made by this man. So he was a great help, because obviously once he started talking about hills, he's like, I'm just going to make the hills. I was like, cool. Didn't mean that to happen. So that was fantastic. And I'm so pleased too that because of all the time he invested, that he was able to, because this is his gig. Like, this man is a content creator. So I'm so happy that he got a piece of content. So let's go out there. Let's make it successful. Go check out Solving the Age-Old Paradox of Wargaming Hills. Yeah. What a title.
What a title to do so well. Also, I've watched the video now. It does take a little while to like get going. But once you reach the top, it's just all downhill from there, which is... Thank you. Thank you. Right, so Empire models, tell us what you think of them. Then let us know what you're setting for your perfect Warhammer Fantasy Battle Old World series would be. Who would star in it? And then lastly, go to the Eric's Hill video and tell in the comments, right, tell him that we sent you. and then say a big hello from us, which would be cool as well. So thanks for staying Squarebase. Lots of content coming out soon. Hope you're enjoying it all. Thanks to everyone on the Squarebase Patreon for helping us being able to make this. Loads of love to you. See you all soon.